Let the night settle around you. Let it come in close, the way darkness does when you stop resisting it, not as something threatening, but as something gentle. Something that has always been there, patient at the edges of the day, waiting for the noise to stop so it can finally do its work. And its work is this: rest. Quiet. The slow, unhurried process of returning you to yourself. Breathe in slowly. And out. And again. Feel the weight of your body where it rests. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands uncurl. Let your jaw soften. You've been holding it tighter than you realized. Let it all go, gently, the way leaves let go in autumn. Not because they've given up, but because the time is right. Tonight, I want to take you somewhere very old. Not old in the way that makes you feel the weight of history pressing down on you, but old in the way that a forest feels old. Old in the way that makes the air smell different. Richer. Cooler. As though the ground itself remembers things that haven't been spoken aloud in centuries, and holds them quietly in the roots and the stones and the slow movement of water through moss. We are going to the world of the ancient Celts, and to their most mysterious keepers of knowledge, the Druids. Now, I want to say something important before we begin, because the word Celtic and the word Druid sometimes carry with them a kind of theatrical excitement, images of wild-bearded sorcerers and stone circles and moonlit rituals that belong more to Hollywood than to history. We are not going there tonight. What we are actually going to explore is quieter and stranger, and in some ways far more interesting than the popular mythology. The Celts were real people, millions of them, living across an enormous sweep of ancient Europe, from Ireland and Scotland in the northwest to Anatolia in the east, speaking related languages, sharing related beliefs, developing a culture of astonishing sophistication and beauty that the ancient Greeks and Romans found both admirable and deeply unsettling. The Druids were their philosophers, their scientists, their priests, their judges, their astronomers, and their poets. They spent 20 years in training, 20 years of memorizing, in verse, the entire accumulated knowledge of their civilization, because they believed that certain truths should never be written down, only carried in the living memory of those prepared to receive them. That knowledge, and what happened to it, and what we have managed to recover of it across 2,000 years, that is what we are going to drift through tonight. Come with me into the forest. Here is what this journey is going to feel like. It is going to feel like walking into a very old forest at dusk. The light is low and golden and comes through the canopy at long angles, making everything glow a little, the moss on the stones, the ferns along the path, the bark of the oak trees, which is deeply furrowed and ancient and somehow warm to the touch. There is no rush in this forest. Nothing requires your attention urgently. The path is clear enough, and it leads somewhere good, and you don't need to hurry to get there. We will walk through the world of the ancient Celts, who they were, where they came from, what they built and believed and understood about the world. We'll stop at the great stone monuments they sometimes inhabited and modified, places like Stonehenge, though that is older than the Celts themselves, and Newgrange in Ireland, which is older still. We'll sit with the Druids in their oak groves and try to understand what those 20 years of training actually contained, What kind of knowledge was so important that it had to be held entirely in human memory rather than committed to any surface that time could erode? We'll meet the Celtic gods, strange, beautiful, unsettling figures who are not quite what gods usually are in other traditions, who appear and disappear at liminal moments, at the edges of seasons, at the threshold between the visible world and the one that flickers just beneath it. We'll hear some of the myths, the stories of the Tuatha De Danann, the divine beings of Irish tradition who were pushed underground and became the fairies. Of Cuchulainn, the greatest warrior hero of the ancient Irish world, whose birth, life, and death were all accompanied by signs and strangeness. Of the Mabinogion tales from Wales, where the rules of reality shift without warning and the most apparently simple journeys turn out to be something else entirely. And then, as the forest grows darker around us and the stars appear between the canopy of oak leaves, the story will slow down. The voices will soften. The path will become less distinct, and that will be all right, because by then we will not need to see the path clearly. By then, we will simply be resting in it, ready to sleep. Let's begin. Who were the Celts? The Celts are, in a sense, a mystery in plain sight. They were one of the most widespread and culturally influential peoples in the ancient world. At their territorial height, roughly between 500 and 200 BCE, Celtic-speaking peoples occupied an arc of land stretching from Ireland and Britain in the northwest, through Gaul, modern France, and the Iberian Peninsula, modern Spain and Portugal, through Central Europe and the Balkans, and all the way to Anatolia in what is now Turkey. A group of Celtic warriors called the Galatians settled in central Anatolia in the 3rd century BCE and maintained their identity there for centuries. They are the people to whom one of St. Paul's letters in the New Testament is addressed. This is an enormous territory, an area larger than modern Europe. And yet, despite this vast spread, Celtic culture maintained a remarkable degree of coherence in its languages, its art, its religious beliefs, and its social structures. And yet, and this is the mystery, the Celts never formed an empire. They never created a unified state with a capital city and a bureaucracy and a written administrative tradition. They were never, in the political sense, a single thing. They were a collection of tribes and kingdoms and confederacies, sharing a culture and a set of languages but not a centralized political identity. The Romans, who encountered them first as terrifying raiders, Gaulish Celts sacked Rome around 390 BCE, and later as subjects and allies, called them Galli in the west and Celti and Galatai in the east. The Greeks called the broader group Keltoi. The people themselves used local tribal names, Iceni, Brigantes, Arverni, Helvetii, and dozens of others, rather than a single collective identity. The word Celt itself may derive from a Proto-Celtic root meaning to strike or to harm, which gives you some indication of how these people first made themselves known to their Mediterranean neighbors. Where did they come from? This is a question that archaeology, linguistics, and now ancient DNA analysis have been working on for more than 2 centuries, and the answer is becoming clearer, if not yet complete. The Celtic languages belong to the Indo-European language family, the same vast family that includes Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, Germanic languages, and dozens of others. This means that the ancestors of the Celts were part of the great movement of peoples who spread Indo-European languages across Europe and Asia beginning around 4000 to 3000 BCE. The most current archaeological and genetic evidence suggests that Celtic languages and a distinctively Celtic culture emerged somewhere in Central Europe, possibly in the region of the Upper Danube, in what is now Austria and southern Germany, during the Late Bronze Age, roughly 1200 to 800 BCE. The culture we call Early Celtic is archaeologically identified by two successive material culture traditions. The first is the Hallstatt culture, named after a salt mining village in the Austrian Alps where a remarkable cemetery was discovered in the 19th century, a cemetery full of grave goods of extraordinary richness, bronze swords and daggers, bronze helmets and armor, gold jewelry, ceramic vessels, wagons and horse harness. Salt, mined in the mountains above the village, was one of the most valuable commodities in the ancient world, essential for preserving food, tanning leather, and dozens of other uses, and the people who controlled the Hallstatt salt mines were wealthy, powerful, and connected by trade networks that extended from Scandinavia to the Mediterranean. The second tradition is the Latine culture, named after a site in Switzerland on the shore of Lake Neuchâtel, where thousands of objects were found deposited in the shallow waters, apparently as ritual offerings. Latine art is what most people recognize as Celtic art, the flowing, interlaced, curvilinear designs of spirals and knots and stylized animal forms that appear on everything from bronze mirrors to gold torques to illuminated manuscripts. Latine art is one of the most distinctive and beautiful artistic styles ever developed. It is characterized by its avoidance of straight lines, its preference for movement and flow, its integration of animal and plant and geometric forms into single continuously evolving compositions. A Celtic bronze fitting or a Celtic gold torque is not decorated, it is transformed. The surface becomes a world of its own, where animal forms emerge from spiral patterns and disappear back into them, where the eye follows a line that never quite ends. This art style persisted for more than 1,000 years, from the 5th century BCE in continental Europe to the glorious period of insular Celtic art in Ireland and Scotland from the 7th to the 9th century CE, where it reached its greatest heights in the illuminated Gospels of Lindisfarne and Kells. The Book of Kells, created in an Irish or Scottish monastery around 800 CE, contains pages of such intricate, detailed, and beautifully composed Celtic interlace that modern viewers often assume they are computer-generated. They are not. They were drawn by human hands, with quill and ink, on vellum, by monks who brought to the Christian scriptures the same visual sensibility that their ancestors had brought to bronze and gold 1,000 years before. One page of the Book of Kells, the Chi-Rho page, representing the first letters of Christ in Greek, contains, within a space roughly 33 by 25 centimeters, an estimated 158 distinct interlaced elements. Scholars examining it with magnifying equipment have found details that are invisible to the naked eye, details so small that the monks who drew them could not have seen what they were drawing clearly. They drew by feel, by the practiced knowledge of the hand. Some people have suggested that they drew for God alone to see. Others suggest that the invisibility of certain details was simply the natural result of absolute commitment to a principle, that the interlace must be perfect everywhere, even where no human eye would notice. Both explanations say something true about the Celtic artistic tradition. The Druids, 20 years of memory. Let's walk a little deeper into the forest. The Druids. The word itself, its exact origin and meaning, has been debated by scholars for centuries. The most widely accepted etymology connects it to two Proto-Celtic roots, dru meaning oak or possibly great or immense, and wid meaning to know or to see. A druid, in this interpretation, is an oak knower, or perhaps one whose knowledge is as vast and deep-rooted as an oak. The oak was sacred to the Druids in a way that went beyond symbolism. The oak was the tree, the king of the forest, the home of mistletoe, the wood from which the sacred groves were made. The Celtic word for oak grove, nemeton, became the name for sacred spaces in general. A nemeton was a sanctuary, a cleared sacred space under the sky, sometimes in a forest clearing, sometimes on a hilltop, sometimes in a river valley. The word survived in ancient place names across Celtic Europe, Nemetabriga in Spain, Drunmetten in Galatia, Oak Grove of the Celts, Vernmetum in England, and in modern Welsh, where knifed retains the ancient root. The Romans first described the Druids in any detail, and their accounts are both our most important source and our most compromised one. The Romans were in the process of conquering the Celtic world. Their descriptions of Druidic practices, including the famous claim of human sacrifice in giant wickerwork figures, served a political purpose, to justify the conquest as civilization overcoming barbarism. We cannot take Roman accounts at face value, but we also cannot dismiss them entirely. Archaeology has found evidence in Celtic contexts that suggests some ritual killing did occur, though its nature and frequency are debated. What is certain is that the Roman portrayal of Druids as primitive sorcerers is wildly incomplete and largely distorted. What do we actually know about them? Julius Caesar, who spent years campaigning in Gaul and engaged with Druids directly, left the most detailed classical account. He describes two prestigious groups in Gaulish society, the Druids and the Knights, warriors. The Druids, he writes, are the educated class, responsible for all religious matters but also for education, for resolving legal disputes, for astronomical observation, for the transmission of knowledge. He makes several observations that stand out. First, Druids are exempt from military service and from taxation. Second, young men flock to study with them from across the Celtic world because completing Druidic training confers enormous social status. Third, and this is the remarkable one, they commit nothing to writing because they believe that writing would damage the memory, and that the spoken transmission of knowledge between living minds is both more reliable and more appropriate than marks on any surface. They spent up to 20 years in training. 20 years. Memorizing verse. What did those verses contain? We don't know precisely, because, consistent with their own philosophy, they didn't write it down. But Caesar tells us that the Druids taught astronomy, the nature of the world, and the power of the gods. The ancient writer Pomponius Mela adds that they claimed to know the size and shape of the earth, the movements of the sky and stars, and the will of the gods. This is not the curriculum of primitive shamans. This is the curriculum of natural philosophers, of the ancient equivalents of scientists and theologians and lawyers combined. The Druids apparently had detailed knowledge of astronomy. They maintained a complex calendar, the Coligny calendar, a bronze tablet discovered in France in 1897 and dating to approximately the 1st century CE, is the most complete Celtic calendar ever found. It shows a sophisticated lunisolar calendar, tracking both the lunar months and the solar year simultaneously, with careful notations of lucky and unlucky days, and a system for intercalating extra months to keep the lunar and solar cycles aligned. This is not primitive timekeeping. This is the same computational challenge that drove the development of mathematics in Babylonia and Egypt. Botany and medicine. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder describes in detail the Druidic ritual of cutting mistletoe from an oak on the 6th day of the moon, using a golden sickle, with white-robed priests below catching the falling plant in a white cloak. Whatever the ritual significance, the underlying knowledge is botanical. Mistletoe, Viscum album, is a parasitic plant that grows on oak trees, and it was used in Celtic medicine for a range of purposes. Modern pharmacology has confirmed that mistletoe extracts contain compounds with genuine biological activity, including some that are being investigated for anti-tumor properties. Law and philosophy. The Druids were the judges of the Celtic world. Legal disputes between individuals, between tribes, were brought to them for resolution. Their judgments were binding. They could, according to ancient sources, excommunicate individuals from religious and social life, a punishment described as more feared than death. And poetry. In the Celtic world, the poet was not merely an entertainer. The poet was a keeper of truth, a wielder of social power, and, at the highest levels, virtually indistinguishable from the Druid. The bards, words as weapons. The Celtic tradition distinguished several types of what we might loosely call learned professionals. The Druids were the most prestigious, responsible for religious and philosophical knowledge. Alongside them were the Vates, seers and diviners, responsible for sacrifice and augury. And the bards, poets and keepers of oral tradition. In practice, these roles overlapped considerably. And in Ireland, where Celtic culture survived longest, protected by geography from Roman conquest, and was eventually preserved in writing by Christian monks, the figure of the Fili, plural, Philid, combined elements of all three. The Irish Fili were poet-prophets. Their training lasted, like that of the Druids proper, up to 12 or even 20 years. They learned enormous numbers of poetic forms, over 100 different meters, each with specific rules about line length, syllable count, consonants, and rhyme. They memorized hundreds of stories, the mythological tales, the genealogies of noble families, the histories of places and peoples. They studied law, astronomy, grammar, and philosophy. And they had a power that was specifically and genuinely feared, the power of satire. In the Celtic world, a poet's praise could elevate a king. And a poet's satire, a poem of ridicule and condemnation composed in the correct form and delivered publicly, could destroy one. This is not metaphor. Celtic satire was believed to have literal physical effects. A poem condemning a king for ungenerous or unjust behavior was thought to cause blemishes to appear on his face, and a blemished king, in the Celtic tradition, could not rule. The idea of the sacred king as physically perfect and ritually inviolable was so deeply embedded that a poetic attack on his character manifested as a physical attack on his body. There are stories in the Irish texts of poets whose satires raised blotches and lesions on their targets overnight. Whether or not these stories are literally true, they reflect a cultural reality. The poet wielded real social power, and that power was treated as entirely natural and entirely serious. A good filly could compose and deliver a satire extemporaneously, just as we might tell a joke, but a formal satire against a king required careful composition, correct form, and public performance. The conventions of the art form were the source of its power, in the same way that the conventions of legal procedure give a court judgment its authority. The bards also composed eulogies, praise poems for kings and warriors, which were at least as important as the satires, because a king's reputation, his honor, his verflathammen, the truth of the ruler, the quality that made a reign just and therefore prosperous, was maintained in large part through the public performance of poetry about him. This is why Celtic kings gave lavish gifts to their court poets. Not merely out of appreciation for the art form, but because a well-maintained poet was the king's best advertisement, his most portable reputation, and his most fearsome weapon in the social wars of status and honor that were the fabric of Celtic political life. The gifts are recorded in some of the poems themselves. He gave me 50 horses. He gave me a gold torque and a cloak of finest wool. He gave me a silver cauldron. The poet inventorying the gifts of a generous king was both genuine praise and a kind of public receipt, proof that this king met the standards required of him, that he was worthy of the loyalty of his people. The Celtic cosmos, between the worlds. Now let's step out of the grove for a moment and look up. The Celtic understanding of the cosmos, of what the universe is and how it is organized, is not easy to reconstruct from the fragments that survive. But certain themes appear consistently enough across the Irish, Welsh, Gaulish, and British traditions to give us a sense of the underlying worldview. The Celts do not seem to have imagined a sharp boundary between the visible world and the invisible one. In most ancient religious traditions, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Norse, there is a clear distinction between the world of the living and the world of the dead or divine. The two domains may communicate, but they are separate. You know which one you're in. In the Celtic imagination, this boundary is more like a membrane than a wall. It is permeable. It thins at certain times and certain places. And those times and places are not rare, dangerous exceptions, they are regular, recurring, natural features of the world's rhythm. The concept of the other world, in Irish, Tír na nG, the land of eternal youth, Mag Mel, the plain of joy, Tír Tearngair, the land of promise, is central to Celtic mythology. But the other world is not heaven. It is not the afterlife in the sense of a place you go to after death. It is a parallel reality that coexists with this one, accessible at the right moments, visible at the right angles. Sometimes it is an island in the Western Ocean, far to the west, where the sun sets, where the day ends. This geographical location is significant. The West is where things end and where things are complete. Several Irish myths describe heroes sailing west to reach the other world, not dying to get there, but sailing, on a real, or real feeling, ocean, to a real, or real feeling, shore. Sometimes the other world is underground, in the hills, the fairy mounds, the ancient burial mounds called city, pronounced she, that dot the Irish landscape. The Tuatha Dé Danann, the divine beings of Irish mythology, the gods of the pre-Christian Irish world, were, after their defeat by the human Milesians, given the underground places, the mountains, the hills, the hollow spaces beneath the earth. They became the Aes Sedai, the people of the fairy mounds. And sometimes the other world is simply here, around the corner of a normal day, through the door of a familiar place, down a path you've walked 100 times that suddenly, on this particular morning, leads somewhere different. The liminal moments, the threshold times, when the membrane between worlds thins most dramatically, were marked by the great Celtic festivals. Samhain, on the 1st of November, the end of summer, the beginning of the dark half of the year. This is the festival that became Halloween. At Samhain, the dead could visit the living. The gods could walk among humans. The rules that normally governed the boundary between worlds were suspended for one night, and anything could cross in either direction. Imbolc, on the 1st of February, the first stirring of spring, associated with the goddess Brigid, later transformed by Christianity into Saint Bridget of Kildare. The return of light. The lambs beginning to be born. The day when the serpent comes out of its winter burrow, and if the weather is fine, it will retreat again. A version of this survived in North America as Groundhog Day. Beltane, on the 1st of May, the great fire festival of summer's beginning, when cattle were driven between two fires to purify them before the summer pastures. Beltane was associated with fertility and abundance, and also with danger. The fairy beings were particularly active and potentially dangerous at this threshold. Lugnasad, on the 1st of August, the harvest festival, named for the god Lugh, one of the greatest of the Tuatha Dé Danann. A time of gathering, of assembly, of athletic games and marriage contracts and the settling of legal disputes. These 4 festivals divide the Celtic year into 8-week segments, and they fall precisely between the astronomical markers of the solstices and equinoxes. They are the cross-quarter days, the midpoints of the seasons. The Celts marked time not primarily by the astronomical events themselves, the shortest day, the longest day, but by the ecological transitions, the beginning of summer pasture, the beginning of harvest, the beginning of darkness, the beginning of return. This is an agricultural timekeeping system, rooted in the actual experience of living on the land through a full annual cycle. And it is, in its own way, deeply empirical, based on careful, multi-generational observation of when the world actually changes, not just when the calendar says it should. Stonehenge, Newgrange, and the stone libraries. Let me take you to a very specific place now. A wide plain in the south of England, in what is now Wiltshire. Open grassland, chalk downland, the sky enormous and closed the way skies are in flat places. And in the middle of this plain, a circle of massive standing stones, some of them 5 meters tall, some of them fallen, some of them missing entirely, arranged with a precision that required both extraordinary engineering knowledge and extraordinary astronomical observation. Stonehenge. I need to say something careful here. Stonehenge was not built by the Druids. This is one of the most persistent misconceptions in popular archaeology, and it matters to correct it because the truth is actually more interesting. Stonehenge was begun around 3000 BCE and developed in several stages over approximately 1,500 years, reaching its most familiar form around 1500 BCE. The Druids, as a recognizable cultural phenomenon, appear in the historical record roughly from 400 BCE, more than 1,000 years after Stonehenge was essentially complete. Stonehenge was built by the Neolithic and Bronze Age peoples of Britain, people who preceded the Celts in the British Isles, and about whom we know far less. Their culture, their beliefs, their specific purposes in constructing this monument, these remain genuine mysteries. The astronomical alignments are real. The monument is oriented toward the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset. The engineering feat of transporting the enormous sarsen stones from Marlborough Downs, 25 kilometers away, and the smaller blue stones from the Preseli Hills in Wales, more than 200 kilometers away, represents something that researchers still don't fully understand. But the Druids didn't build it. They inherited it. They moved through a landscape already full of ancient monuments, stone circles, standing stones, earthworks, chambered tombs, that were already ancient when they were there. What the Druids made of those monuments, how they incorporated them into their own practice and understanding, we can only speculate. What was built by people very much connected to Celtic tradition is Newgrange. Newgrange, see in Brew in Irish, the fairy mound of the Brew, is a passage tomb in County Meath, Ireland, in the valley of the River Boyne. It was built around 3200 BCE, making it older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids of Egypt, one of the oldest deliberately constructed monuments in the world. It is a large circular mound, roughly 85 meters in diameter and 13 meters tall, its exterior now reconstructed with gleaming white quartz. Inside the mound, a narrow stone passage, about 19 meters long, leads to a cruciform chamber at the center. The walls of the passage and chamber are decorated with elaborate spiral and geometric carvings, among the earliest examples of megalithic art in the world. And then there is the roof box. Above the entrance to the passage, there is a small rectangular opening, the roof box, that serves a single, specific, extraordinary purpose. On the winter solstice, December 21st or thereabouts, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the roof box, and for approximately 17 minutes, a narrow beam of sunlight travels the entire length of the 19-meter passage and illuminates the central chamber. For 17 minutes, on the shortest day of the year, the chamber at the heart of this 5,200-year-old monument fills with light. The precision required to achieve this alignment, knowing where the solstice sunrise would appear, then engineering a 19-meter passage aimed exactly at that point, then constructing a roof box at the correct height and angle, required both detailed astronomical knowledge and remarkable engineering skill. The builders of Newgrange could not have used written calculations. They had no writing. They carried this knowledge in their minds, in their memory, in the accumulated observation of the sky by generations of people who had watched where the sun rose on the shortest day, year after year, and passed that knowledge to the next generation in the form of practical understanding and practical work. Modern Druids and Celtic spiritual communities gather at Newgrange for the winter solstice, hoping to witness the phenomenon. There is now a lottery system for places inside the chamber during the solstice sunrise, because demand so vastly exceeds the available space. 20 people can fit in the chamber. Tens of thousands apply for a place each year. Something about that ancient light, still doing what it was designed to do 5,000 years later, still reaching the center of a stone chamber on the darkest day. Something about it reaches people in a way that is difficult to fully articulate. The Irish literary tradition later associated Newgrange with the god Angus Og, the young god of love, and with the Dagda, the great father god of the Tuatha Dé Danann. Stories were told of feasts in the otherworldly chambers beneath these ancient mounds. The mounds became the homes of the divine beings. The monuments of the ancient dead became the dwelling places of the eternal. The landscape itself was a text, and the Celts read it that way, every hill and river and standing stone carrying a story, a name, a connection to the larger web of myth and history that made the Irish landscape a living library of cultural memory. The gods, strange and beautiful. The Celtic gods are not like the gods of Greece and Rome. This is the first thing to understand, and it takes a moment to absorb. The Greek and Roman gods are, in a sense, very human. They have clear personalities, clear domains, clear histories and relationships and motivations. They behave, sometimes badly, often pettily, occasionally magnificently, in ways that are entirely recognizable. Zeus is powerful and philandering and occasionally just. Hera is dignified and furiously jealous. Apollo is beautiful and artistic and sometimes cruel. You know where you are with them. The Celtic gods are different. They are larger than their domains, stranger than their attributes. They shape-shift and appear in multiple forms. Their motivations are opaque in ways that feel intentional, as though the universe has its own logic that only partially overlaps with human logic, and the gods are expressions of that larger, incomprehensible logic rather than simply more powerful versions of human beings. Let me introduce you to a few of them. The Dagda, the great god of the Irish tradition, the good god, not good as in morally virtuous, but good as in skilled at everything, competent in all domains. The Dagda is enormous, often depicted as pot-bellied, dressed in a rough tunic that is too short, dragging a club so large it has to be carried on wheels. When the club strikes with one end, it kills. When it strikes with the other, it restores the dead to life. He owns a cauldron, the cauldron of plenty, from which no one goes away unsatisfied. Food replenishes itself endlessly. This cauldron is one of the 4 great treasures of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and it is also the ancestor of the most resonant symbol in all of Celtic mythology, the Grail. He plays a harp, the unearthed, that has the power to control the seasons. When it plays the melody of weeping, autumn comes. When it plays the melody of laughter, spring arrives. When it plays the melody of sleep, the whole world rests. The Dagda is not a refined or elegant god. He is a god of earth and abundance and practical competence. He is often comic. There are stories of him eating an enormous meal, of him tripping over his too long club, of him being tricked by lesser figures. But underneath the comedy is something immense and ancient, a deity of fertility and death and time, whose cauldron feeds the world and whose club both ends life and restores it. The Morrigan. One of the most complex and powerful figures in the Irish tradition. She is a goddess of fate, of sovereignty, of war, but not war in the sense of combat and strategy. War in the sense of the terrible and transforming force that strips everything unnecessary away and reveals what is truly present. The Morrigan appears to heroes before battles, sometimes as a beautiful young woman offering love or sovereignty, sometimes as a crow flying over the battlefield, sometimes as an old hag washing the bloody armor of those about to die. She is fate in the form of a woman, or a crow, or something between them. Her relationship with Cuchulainn, the greatest hero of the Ulster cycle, is one of the most psychologically complex relationships in all of mythology. She approaches him. He refuses her. She attacks him in animal forms. He wounds her. She heals. She warns him of his death. He ignores the warning. She is there at the end, perched on his shoulder as a crow, as he dies standing upright, tied to a standing stone because he refused to die lying down. There is something in the Morrigan's relationship with Cuchulainn that is not about love, exactly, or hatred, exactly. It is about recognition. She sees what he is completely. She knows his glory and his doom and the specific shape of his end. And her repeated appearances at the crossroads of his life are not interventions so much as acknowledgments, the universe, in female form, witnessing the specific pattern of a specific human life playing out its full and inevitable arc. Brigid. One of the most beloved deities of the Celtic world, and one of the few whose cult survived the conversion to Christianity with remarkable continuity, she was transformed into Saint Brigid of Kildare, one of Ireland's 3 patron saints, but retained so many of her pre-Christian attributes that the boundary between goddess and saint became genuinely blurry. Brigid is a goddess of 3 things: poetry, smithcraft, and healing. This combination is not arbitrary. In the Celtic worldview, these 3 arts share a common quality: they all involve transformation. The blacksmith transforms raw ore into tools and weapons. The healer transforms illness into health. The poet transforms experience into language that can be carried and shared. All 3 work with fire: the forge fire, the fever that can heal or kill, the inner fire of inspiration. Her festival is Imbolc, on the 1st of February, the first day of spring in the Celtic calendar, associated with the first stirring of new life. At Imbolc, in many parts of Ireland, a figure representing Brigid was carried from house to house in a procession, and it was considered fortunate to have her threshold blessing on your home at the beginning of spring. At Kildare, the monastery of St. Brigid maintained a sacred fire that was tended by 19 nuns in rotation, never men, and on the 20th day the fire was said to tend itself. This fire is described as having burned continuously for centuries. It is almost certainly a Christianized continuation of a pre-Christian sacred fire associated with the goddess. The fire at Kildare was extinguished during the suppression of the monasteries by Henry VIII government in the 16th century. It was relit in 1993 by the Brigidine sisters, who maintain it still. A sacred fire, tending the transition between goddess and saint across 1500 years of religious change. The mythological cycle, in the beginning. The Irish mythological tradition is organized into 4 great cycles of stories. The earliest, the mythological cycle, describes the settling of Ireland by successive waves of divine and semi-divine peoples, and culminates in the great battle between the Tuatha De Danann and the Fomorians. Let me tell you this story slowly. In the beginning, Ireland was empty. Then came the first settlers, shadowy, barely defined figures in the tradition, who died of plague or were overwhelmed by flood. Then came more settlers. Wave after wave, each group with its own character and gifts, each overcoming or being overcome. The most important of these mythological invasions is the arrival of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the people of the goddess Danu, or possibly the people of skill. The etymology is debated. They are explicitly divine, beings of supernatural power and extraordinary beauty, skilled in every art and craft. They arrive in Ireland in clouds of mist, or, in some versions, on flying ships, or on mountain summits. They bring with them 4 treasures. The Liafail, the stone of destiny, which screams aloud when the rightful king of Ireland sets his foot upon it. This stone is said to be the one that stands still today at the Hill of Tara in County Meath, the ancient ritual and political center of Ireland. The actual stone of destiny of Scottish tradition, the stone of Scone, now kept with the Scottish crown jewels, is a different stone, though connected by name and concept to the same mythology. The Spear of Luff, a magical spear belonging to the sun god Luff, from which no enemy could escape once it was thrown. The tip needed to be kept submerged in a cauldron of water to prevent its fire from consuming everything around it. The Sword of Nuada, a sword from which no one ever escaped once it was drawn from its sheath. The Cauldron of the Dagda, from which we have already heard. No one goes away from it unsatisfied. 4 treasures representing the 4 directions, the 4 elements, the 4 provinces of Ireland. Sovereignty, martial power, inevitable justice, abundance. The Tuatha Dé Danann fight 2 great battles for Ireland. The first battle of Mag Tuired, is against the Firbolg, an earlier group of settlers. The Tuatha Dé Danann win, but their king, Nuada, loses his arm in the fighting. And here the mythology becomes interestingly specific. A king of Ireland must be physically perfect to rule. A king without a hand cannot hold the sovereignty of the land. Nuada abdicates. But then the god Dien Sect, the physician of the Tuatha Dé Danann, makes Nuada a fully functional silver arm. It moves and feels like a real arm. This silver-armed king, Nuada Ergitlam, Nuada of the Silver Arm, is restored to the throne, and the substitution of a prosthetic limb for a natural one is treated, ultimately, as restoring rather than compromising the requirement of physical wholeness. This is the world's first recorded prosthetic limb, described in mythology as the solution to a political and ritual problem. The second great battle, the second battle of Mag Tuired, is against the Fomorians. These are among the strangest entities in all of mythology. They are described variously as sea beings, as monstrous ancient gods, as the embodiment of darkness and chaos and blight. They are not exactly evil, several of them are complex figures, but they represent a principle opposed to order and growth and the prosperity of the land. Their king, Balor, has a terrible eye, the evil eye, which when opened causes death to everything it looks upon. Balor's eye is so heavy that it requires 4 men to lift the lid. In battle, the Fomorians open Balor's eye as a weapon of mass destruction. The Tuatha Dé Danann hero who kills Balor is Luff, the great god of skill and light and many arts, whose name means something like the Shining One, and who is associated with the sun. In the climactic moment of the battle, Luff throws a spear or slings a stone directly into Balor's terrible eye, driving it backward through Balor's head so that it now faces the Fomori army and destroys them instead. Light overcomes the destructive gaze. Skill overcomes brute power. The battle is won. These two great battles, and the stories of the individual heroes who fight in them, are the bedrock of the Irish mythological tradition. They establish the gods and their qualities, they explain the nature of sovereignty and its requirements, and they set up the fundamental tension of Celtic cosmology between the forces of order, skill, abundance, and life, and the forces of chaos, blight, destruction, and death. The tension is never finally resolved. The Fomorians are defeated but not destroyed. The darkness is pushed back, not eliminated. The land is won, but its keeping requires ongoing attention, ongoing ritual, ongoing right relationship between the human world and the divine. Cuchulainn, the Hound of Ulster. Let the fire settle a little lower. Let's tell one more story before we begin to drift toward quieter waters. The story of Cuchulainn is, in the Irish tradition, the story of a hero in the fullest and oldest sense of that word, not a superhero in the comic book sense, but a hero in the Greek sense, a mortal being of extraordinary gifts whose life burns more brightly than ordinary lives and ends earlier, and whose death is not a tragedy exactly but a completion. His original name is Setanta. He is the son, in the mythological tradition, of the god Luff, the Shining One, though he is raised as a human child by his mother's family in Ulster. The story of how he becomes Cuchulainn is a good place to begin, because it is simultaneously a story about a boy doing something remarkable and a story about what it costs to be remarkable. He is traveling to join his uncle Conchobar, the king of Ulster, at a feast at the house of a blacksmith named Cuchulainn. He arrives late, delayed by his hurling game, which he is playing so brilliantly that he loses track of time. Cuchulainn has already closed the gates and released his great guard dog, believing everyone who should be present already is. The boy arrives. The dog attacks. The boy kills the dog with his bare hands, or with his hurling stick and ball, depending on the version. Cuchulainn is furious. His guard dog is dead. His home is now unprotected. Setanta offers a solution. He will train a puppy to replace the dog, and in the meantime, he himself will serve as the Hound of Cuchulainn, guarding the blacksmith's property through the night. And so his name changes. He becomes Cuchulainn, the Hound of Cuchulainn. The taking of this name, the acceptance of this identity, is simultaneously a diminishment and an elevation. A king's nephew becoming a guard dog. But also, a mortal becoming so extraordinary in ability that he can replace an animal specifically bred for a specific purpose. And there is something in the name's permanence. Cuchulainn carries it forever after, this identity that began as an improvised solution to a social problem that feels like fate. The name found him. His life is full of such moments. He receives his weapons on a day that a Druid declares will produce the greatest warrior Ireland has ever known, but will also produce a life that is short. He accepts the weapons. He accepts the shortness. He undergoes training with the warrior woman Scathack on the shadowy island of Alba, learning feats of arms that no ordinary mortal can achieve. He masters the Gi Balga, a terrible weapon, thrown with the foot, that spreads barbs throughout the body of anyone it strikes. He uses it once on a man he loves, his foster brother Fair Dyad, in the most devastating episode of the Ulster cycle. He suffers the curse of Ulster, a curse placed on the men of Ulster that causes them to suffer the weakness of a woman in childbed at times of greatest danger. In the Tain Buachailnge, the cattle raid of Cooley, the great epic of the Ulster cycle, the men of Ulster are struck helpless by this curse when Queen Meb of Connaught invades to steal the great bull Don Quailnge. Only Cuchulainn, because his father is a god and not fully Ulsterman, is immune. And so he defends Ulster alone. He fights the champion warriors of Connaught one at a time in single combat, each battle a poem of violence and skill and pain, keeping the army at bay through the winter while his people lie helpless. He fights through serious wounds. He fights through exhaustion. He fights while knowing, from the prophecies that have surrounded him since birth, that this path leads to his death. When the Ulster men finally recover and the great battle is joined, he fights in his battle frenzy, the Rheastrad, the warp spasm, a transformation that distorts his body into something barely human, one eye sucked into his head, the other protruding, his face warped, his muscles knotted, heat radiating from him, his hair standing on end and pointed with supernatural light. He becomes, in those moments, something between a man and a force of nature. His death comes eventually, as all deaths in these stories do, through a combination of fate, betrayal, curse, and his own choice to keep moving toward the inevitable. He is struck by a magical spear and mortally wounded, and knowing he is dying, he ties himself to a standing stone so that he will die upright, facing his enemies. He dies standing. And the Morrigan settles on his shoulder as a crow, and his enemies only dare approach when they see the light fade from his eyes. The standing stone to which Cuchulainn tied himself in his final hours, the Cloche Farmore standing stone in County Louth, still exists. Farmers have been mowing around it for thousands of years. Not from supernatural fear. From something more like respect. The acknowledgement that a place where a story happened is different from a place where no story happened. The Welsh tradition, the Mabinogion. Let's cross the Irish Sea now, in our imagination. Let's come to Wales, to the green and hilly land of Cymru, where the Celtic tradition took a somewhat different form but grew from the same ancient roots. The Mabinogion is the collective name for a group of Welsh prose tales, preserved in medieval manuscripts, the White Book of Riddarch and the Red Book of Hergest, but drawing on oral traditions that are certainly much older. The stories they contain are among the strangest and most beautiful in all of world literature. The first four stories, the four branches of the Mabinogi, form a connected sequence in which the same characters and themes recur, though the connection between the branches is subtle and sometimes deliberately obscure. They take place in a world where the rules of reality are consistently, quietly unstable. People are transformed. Time moves differently in different places. The other world intersects with this world without announcement or explanation. The first branch follows Pool, Lord of Dyft, who encounters Araun, Lord of the Otherworld, while hunting. They exchange places for a year, Pool living in the other world in Araun's body, ruling his kingdom and fighting his wars, while Araun lives in Dyft. Neither can tell, from the outside, that a substitution has been made. The story asks something quietly interesting: what makes a person a specific person? If you look like someone else, live their life competently, fulfill all their social roles, are you them? Poole later meets and marries Rhiannon, a figure from the other world, a woman on a white horse who cannot be overtaken no matter how fast you ride, until she allows you to catch up. Rhiannon is one of the most fascinating figures in Welsh mythology: intelligent, patient, witty, dignified, and wrongly accused of murdering her own infant child. She accepts the punishment imposed on her, sitting at the gate and offering to carry strangers into the hall on her back, like a horse, with a composure that is not passive but strategic. She knows the truth will emerge. She endures because she knows. This patience, this long-sighted composure in the face of unjust suffering, is a quality that appears repeatedly in Celtic female figures and seems to carry genuine cultural weight. The wrongly accused woman who endures and is eventually vindicated. The grieving mother who waits. The queen whose wisdom outlasts whatever temporary catastrophe has been imposed on her. The fourth branch contains perhaps the most psychologically complex story in the Mabinogion, the story of Math, Gwydion, and Llew. It involves treachery, magical punishment, the creation of a woman out of flowers, the flower bride, Blodyd, made of oak blossom and broom and meadowsweet, her betrayal of the husband she was made to love, and his transformation into an eagle and back. Blodyd, whose name means flower face, is one of the most interesting characters in all of Celtic mythology precisely because she is created specifically to be someone's wife, with no choice in the matter, and responds to this absence of agency by exercising the only form of agency available to her, a kind of terrible freedom. She falls in love with someone she chooses and plans the death of the husband she was given. She is transformed into an owl as punishment, the only bird that cannot show its face in daylight, who must haunt the night. Whether this is tragedy or justice or something in between is deliberately left unresolved. The Mabinogion tales resist resolution. They resist the imposition of a clean moral. They present human experience in its actual complexity, compromised, ambiguous, unfinished, and leave the listener to sit with that complexity. This is, I think, a deeply sophisticated literary strategy. And it is very old. The natural world, sacred trees and holy waters. Let's slow down now. Let's step back into the natural world that surrounded and permeated Celtic life, because the relationship between the Celts and the natural world is one of the most beautiful and ecologically interesting aspects of their entire culture. The Celts were not nature worshippers in the sense of attributing human emotions and desires to trees and rivers. But they understood the natural world as full of presence, not necessarily the presence of gods exactly, but of forces, of intelligence, of accumulated power that demanded respect and reciprocity. The sacred tree, the bile, was one of the most important features of any Celtic sacred landscape. Each tribe, each kingdom, had a sacred tree associated with it, typically an oak, an ash, or a yew, that stood at the center of the territory and served as the physical expression of the land's sovereignty. The bile was the axis of the kingdom, the meeting place of the vertical worlds, underground roots, earthly trunk, heavenly canopy, and its health was bound up with the health of the kingdom itself. When one Celtic kingdom conquered another, Cutting down the sacred tree of the defeated people was a deliberate and devastating act, not just the destruction of a tree but the symbolic annihilation of the defeated kingdom's identity and sacred coherence. The Irish tree alphabet, the Ogham script, is named for and organized around trees. Ogham is the earliest form of writing used for the Irish language, and it consists of a series of notches and lines cut into stone, typically along the edge of a standing stone. Each letter is named for a tree: B for Baith, birch; L for Luis, rowan; F for fern, alder; S for sail, willow; N for Nyan, ash, and so on through the alphabet. This arboreal alphabet, the encoding of language in the names of trees, reflects the degree to which the natural world was the primary reference library of Celtic thought. Trees were not background. They were text. The yew tree deserves special attention. The yew, Taxus baccata, is the longest-lived tree in Britain and Ireland, capable of surviving for thousands of years. There are individual yew trees in the British Isles that are conservatively estimated at 3,000 to 5,000 years old, meaning they were alive when Stonehenge was being built. Some may be older. The Fort Ingle yew in Perthshire, Scotland, is estimated at between 3,000 and 5,000 years old by different assessors. The Llangyrni yew in Wales may be 4,000 years old. These trees were ancient when the Druids were young. The Celts associated the yew with death and with immortality, which are, in the Celtic tradition, not opposites but aspects of the same cycle. The yew is poisonous. Almost all parts of it contain taxine alkaloids that are highly toxic to most mammals, and yet produces berries that feed birds. It grows in churchyards, or rather, churchyards were built around existing yews, because the sites where the oldest yews grew were already sacred before Christianity arrived. The yew's extreme longevity, its toxicity, its association with old sacred sites, and its remarkable capacity for regeneration. Old yews can drop branches that root themselves and form new trunks, so a yew grove can be, in a sense, one continuous organism spreading through centuries, made it the tree of death and rebirth, of the deep past, of the hidden continuity that runs beneath all change. Holy wells and sacred waters are equally important. Britain and Ireland are extraordinarily rich in ancient spring-fed wells that have been considered sacred for thousands of years, through the pre-Christian Celtic period and continuing into the Christian era, when many wells were rededicated to saints but maintained their status as healing and prophetic sites. The Celtic tradition of depositing objects in water, rivers, lakes, bogs, and springs, as offerings to the divine presences therein is one of the most archaeologically visible aspects of Celtic religion. Enormous quantities of high-quality metal objects have been found in British and Irish rivers and lakes: swords, shields, helmets, cauldrons, personal ornaments. Not lost accidentally, deliberately placed, at significant moments, in the liminal space between the land and the world below the water. The most famous example is Excalibur, the sword returned to the lake by Bedivere, on Arthur's instructions, as the wounded king is carried to Avalon. Whatever historical reality may or may not lie beneath the Arthurian legend, the ritual of returning the sacred sword to the water at the moment of the king's death is a precise enactment of the ancient Celtic practice, returning the gift of sovereignty to the source when it is no longer needed by the one who held it. Even the name Avalon, from Welsh Afalon, the Isle of Apples, connects to the other world in its western ocean, the apple-rich island of eternal youth that exists beyond the horizon of ordinary life. The Celts and death, a different relationship. We should talk about death, because the Celtic relationship with death is genuinely different from most cultures' relationship with it, and that difference is relevant and interesting and, I think, ultimately calming to contemplate. The Celts, by all accounts, were not particularly afraid of death. This is remarkable enough that multiple ancient writers comment on it with a mixture of admiration and bewilderment. The philosopher Aristotle mentions the Celts' indifference to death in the context of discussing courage. Caesar notes that one of the benefits of Druidic teaching about the soul's immortality is the absence of fear of death, a quality that produces excellent warriors. The Druidic doctrine, as reported by multiple ancient sources, was that the soul does not die at the death of the body, but passes to another body, either another human body, or possibly into other forms. This is a doctrine of transmigration of souls, similar in structure, if not necessarily in details, to the Pythagorean doctrine of metempsychosis and to the Hindu-Buddhist concept of rebirth. The specific mechanics of Celtic soul transmigration are not clear from the sources. The Druids didn't write it down, remember, but the consistent report across multiple ancient writers that this belief existed and that it produced a specific kind of fearlessness in the face of death is significant. The Irish myths support this picture. Death in the mythological world is not necessarily permanent. Heroes die and are reborn. Divine beings appear and disappear. Figures pass between this world and the other world and back. The dead attend the feasts of the gods in the fairy mounds, where they are renewed. The cauldron of rebirth, the Peir Didini of Welsh tradition, owned by the giant couple Efnisien and Madhalwick, can restore slain warriors to life, though they come back mute. They have experienced something that words cannot contain. A version of this cauldron is one of the 13 treasures of Britain in Welsh tradition, and it is almost certainly one of the ancestors of the Grail, the vessel that restores, that contains the source of life, that heals the wounded and feeds the hungry. The Celtic attitude to death does not mean that death was taken lightly, or that grief was not felt. The lament, the keening of women over the dead, was a genuine and formally structured expression of grief in the Irish tradition. The Caenad, keening, was a specific art form, a vocalized lamentation performed by women, and sometimes by professional keeners called nachcawant, over the body of the dead. But grief and acceptance are not opposites. The Celts could grieve deeply and also know, at the same time, that death was not the final word. That the soul continued. That the loved one who died was somewhere, in the living land of the other world, at the feast of the Tuatha De Danann, tasting the food that removes hunger and the drink that removes thirst and the music that makes all wounds stop aching. That is a way of understanding death that is worth sitting with, gently, in the quiet of the night. What survived? The living inheritance. Let me tell you what the Celts gave us. Not as a list, but as a drift of recognition, the moment when you realize that something you've always known has a history longer and stranger than you suspected. Halloween. October 31st. The night when the dead can walk. When children dress as monsters and knock on strangers' doors and receive sweets. The carved turnip, originally, or pumpkin that wards off malevolent spirits. The bonfires. The costumes. All of it is Samhain, transformed by Christianity in time and eventually by American commercial culture, but recognizable in its bones. The basic premise, that on this specific night, the boundary between the living and the dead becomes thin, is Druidic, is Celtic, is thousands of years old. The Cauldron and the Grail. The Dagda's cauldron, from which no one goes away unsatisfied, is the direct ancestor of the Holy Grail, the vessel that feeds and heals and reveals, that the worthy knight seeks across the wasteland. The mythology of the Grail, Arthurian, Christian, medieval, is a new form growing from very ancient Celtic roots. The very idea of Arthur himself, the legendary British king who holds together a doomed order, whose greatest knights seek the transcendent, whose death is not quite death, he sleeps in Avalon, waiting to return in Britain's hour of need. This is a figure shaped by Celtic mythological patterns, even if the details are medieval Christian. The sleeping king in the hollow hill who will return. This motif runs through Celtic tradition, applied to various heroes. The fairy faith. The belief in fairy beings, small supernatural creatures who inhabit natural places, who interact unpredictably with humans, who can be helpful or harmful, who inhabit the spaces between. This is a Christian-era transformation of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the divine beings of the pre-Christian Irish tradition. As Ireland was Christianized, the old gods diminished in status, a process described in some texts explicitly, as the Druids debate how to handle the transition, but did not disappear. They became smaller, less overtly divine, more localized, but they remained. As the fairy folk, the little people, the good neighbors, the others. The study of fairy lore in the British Isles and Ireland is not, despite appearances, a trivial subject. It is the study of how an ancient theological and mythological system was compressed and transformed under pressure and survived in folk tradition for 1500 years after the official religion changed. The fairies of Irish folk tradition, the careful protocols for interaction with them, the protective herbs and iron objects, the circumlocutions for referring to them, never say fairy, say good neighbors or the others, encode the memory of a theological system in the grammar of everyday caution. The old languages. Irish, Welsh, Scottish Gaelic, Manx, Cornish, Breton, the Celtic languages are still spoken by millions of people. Welsh has more than 500,000 active speakers. Irish is the first official language of the Republic of Ireland. Scottish Gaelic is maintained in the communities of the Western Isles. Breton is spoken in Brittany in northwestern France. These languages are direct descendants of the languages the Druids spoke. The words that survive in them, for tree, for water, for fire, for home, for the sacred, are words that ancient Druids used, shaped by 25 centuries of continuous use by human mouths, changed in their sounds but continuous in their roots. The word for oak in Irish is dare. In Welsh, dur. In ancient Gaulish, daru. In ancient Greek, drus. In Sanskrit, daru. The same word, the same tree, spoken in different voices across the entire Indo-European world, stretching back to a common ancestor that may be 6,000 years old. When you say tree in English, which comes from Old English trio, related to the same ancient root through the Germanic branch of the family, you are speaking a word that has been used for trees for longer than any currently existing civilization has existed. Words outlast everything else. They are the most durable things human beings make. The oak grove at dusk. Now let's go very quiet. We've traveled far enough through the history and the myth and the science. We've visited the monuments and met the gods and heard the heroes. We've followed the threads of connection forward in time and seen how they weave themselves into the present. Now let's just be in the forest for a while. Let's be in the oak grove at dusk, when the Druids might have been present, when the learning might have been happening, not the dramatic ritualized version, but the ordinary version, the one that happened most evenings of those 20 years of training. A teacher and students, in a grove. The light coming down through oak leaves, green and filtered and slow. The sound of a stream somewhere nearby, not loud enough to disrupt, just present, a continuous gentle undertone beneath the silence. The teacher speaks in verse. The students listen. The words fall into memory the way water falls into a basin, gathering, settling, becoming part of what is held. What are the words? We don't know exactly. The verses were never written down, which means they exist now only in the fossil record of the myths and the laws and the natural history observations that were eventually committed to writing, centuries later, by Christian monks who preserved what they could of the older tradition. But we can imagine the shape of it. The qualities of the great oak, its longevity, its hospitality to hundreds of species. A single mature oak in Britain can support up to 2,300 species of insects, birds, mammals, lichens, and fungi. Its response to wind, an oak in a gale sounds like breathing, enormous and slow. Its relationship with lightning. Oaks are struck by lightning more often than most trees, because of their size and their tendency to stand on high ground. And the Druids saw in this not a randomness but a significance, the tree that receives the fire of heaven. The qualities of water, its memorylessness and its total memory simultaneously, its capacity to take the shape of whatever contains it, its ability to carry things and dissolve things and purify things and drown things and nourish things. The specific sacred waters of specific places, what this spring heals, what that river knows, what this lake receives and keeps at its bottom, waiting. The qualities of the stars, not the individual stars only, but their patterns and movements and the information encoded in those movements about the seasons and the tides and the proper times for planting and harvesting and the great festivals. The qualities of the human, what makes a king worthy, what makes a warrior honorable, what makes a poet truthful, what makes a healer effective. The specific obligations between specific kinds of people. The precise words that must be spoken in precise situations. The forms of respect and the forms of justice and the forms of mourning and celebration. All of this, and more. 20 years of it. Spoken in the evening light under oak trees, while a stream moved somewhere nearby and the sky above the canopy darkened gradually from blue to purple to the first transparent dark of early night. The Coligny calendar, counting lucky days. There is a bronze tablet in a museum in Lyon, France, that is one of the most remarkable objects in the world and one of the least known. The Coligny calendar. It was found in 1897 in fragments, 73 fragments, which scholars have painstakingly pieced together into a bronze tablet measuring approximately 1.48 meters by 0.9 meters. It is dated to approximately the 1st century CE, and it is the longest surviving text in any Gaulish language, which is to say, it is our best primary source for the Gaulish form of the Celtic language, which is otherwise almost entirely lost. What it contains is a calendar, a lunisolar calendar, tracking the cycles of both the moon and the sun over a 5-year period, with months alternating between 29 and 30 days, corresponding to the lunar month of approximately 29.5 days, and a system of intercalary months inserted periodically to keep the lunar calendar aligned with the solar year. This is the same computational challenge that drove the development of mathematical astronomy in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Keeping the moon and the sun in synchrony, keeping the calendar from drifting so that the festivals don't gradually move through the seasons, requires careful, multi-year observation, the identification of repeating cycles, and a mathematical system for predicting when corrections need to be made. The Kalini calendar identifies each day as MAT, good, or ANM, ANMAT, not good. Lucky and unlucky days, in alternating patterns that follow the lunar cycle. This is not mere superstition, it is the remains of a system in which the quality of time was considered variable, and different activities were appropriate at different times in the cycle. The concept that time has texture, that some moments are more conducive to certain activities than others, is as natural as the concept that some physical spaces are more conducive to certain activities. The Druids, working with this calendar, were timing the great festivals of the year. They were also timing the smaller rhythms of everyday life, when to plant, when to harvest, when to move cattle, when to hold the assembly, when to begin a journey, when to make an agreement. The calendar was the collective temporal intelligence of the civilization, encoded in bronze and maintained by specialists who understood its underlying astronomy. The 5-year cycle of the Kalini calendar corresponds to a significant astronomical period. Approximately 5 solar years equals 62 lunar months, to within a small fraction of a day. This correspondence, the near equivalence of 5 solar years and 62 lunar months, was apparently known to the Druids, as it was known to other ancient astronomical traditions, and it provided the basis for their synchronization system. 5 years. 62 moons. The seasons returning to approximately the same relationship with the lunar cycle every 5 years. Time folding back on itself in a long, slow spiral. Let everything become softer now. We've come a long way through the ancient Celtic world tonight. Through the oak groves and the holy wells, through the battle plains of myth and the quiet studios of medieval monks. Through the sacred fires of Bridget and the terrible eye of Balor and the silver arm of the king who needed to be whole to rule. All of it is still there, in its way. Still present in the landscape, in the language, in the stories that get told and retold and transformed and retold again. And now we can let it rest. Let the forest be just a forest. Quiet and enormous and dark and full of the sounds of nighttime creatures going about their business in the way they have been going about their business in forests like this one for longer than human civilization has existed. The owl, the one they say is bloated, the flower-faced woman transformed, calling from somewhere in the high branches. The stream moving over its stones. The wind in the top of the oaks, that breathing sound. And you, breathing too. Slowly. Evenly. In. And out. Imagine a clearing. Not large. Just large enough that the sky is visible, a circle of sky above the circle of clearing, the stars beginning to appear as the last light leaves. There is a fire here. Not large. A small fire, carefully made, fed with dry oak wood. Its light is warm and orange and steady, moving slightly when the wind moves but not going out. This fire was lit with attention and purpose. Someone cared that it burns. The ground around the fire is soft. Moss and fallen leaves and the loamy darkness of old forest floor that has been accumulating for centuries, each year's leaves becoming the next year's soil, the whole thing ancient and soft and alive beneath your feet. Sit down. The fire is warm on your face. The darkness of the forest is soft behind you. Above, the stars are appearing one by one, the Celtic sky, the same sky that the Druids watched to track their calendar, to find their festivals, to read the messages they believed were written there for those who knew how to read. You don't need to read them tonight. They are just there. Beautiful and numerous and very far away and very calm. The oak tree at the edge of the clearing. It has been here for a long time. Longer than anyone who is alive now can directly remember. Its bark is dark and deeply ridged, the grooves in it holding moss and tiny ferns and the eggs of insects that will hatch in spring and live their brief lives in the canopy. In its roots, underground, other roots are intertwined with it, fungal networks, the mycelial threads that connect it to other trees in the forest, through which it exchanges sugars and chemical signals and, in the mycorrhizal world that science is only beginning to understand, something that functions almost like communication. The forest is not silent. The forest is in constant conversation with itself, underground, in a language of chemistry and signal that operates on a timescale much slower than human speech but much more permanent. The ancient Druids knew something about this. Not in the biochemical terms that modern science uses, but in the observational terms of people who spent years in forests watching what happened. They knew that oak groves had a quality different from other places. That the air in old forest was different. That the light was different. That the state of mind induced by sitting in old forest was different from the state of mind of the open plain or the city or the coast. They weren't wrong. Modern research, the study of forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, and the ecological psychology of natural environments, has confirmed that spending time in forest environments measurably reduces cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure, reduces heart rate, improves mood, and enhances immune function. The specific mechanisms include volatile compounds released by trees, phytoncides, particularly terpenes from conifers and flavonoids from broadleaf trees, that have measurable effects on human physiology. The Druids sat in their groves and felt something. We now have some idea of what the something was, chemically speaking. The feeling of peace, of expanded attention, of the edges of anxiety softening, that was real. The forest was doing something to them. The forest is doing something to you now, in your imagination of it. Let your breath be very slow. The fire is low. It has been burning for hours and it is settling now into its later stage, not the bright crackling of new fuel, but the deep orange glow of a fire that has done most of its work and is now simply warm, simply present, simply the remnant of all that brightness. The wood has given everything it had to give. The light it contained for decades, captured from the sun by the leaves of the oak, locked into its cellulose and lignin, held in the grain of the wood through the years of the tree's life, is releasing now as heat and light and the good smell of oak smoke. Light returning. Matter returning. The tree becoming warmth. Somewhere in the Irish countryside, a very old yew tree is standing in a churchyard. It was old when the church was built around it. Old before Christianity came to Ireland. Old perhaps before the Celts arrived. It has been standing in this particular place in the particular way that you stand, dense and dark and somehow attentive, for longer than any human institution that is still functioning today. Its roots go very deep. It doesn't know about the centuries. It doesn't mark time the way human civilization marks time. It simply grows and holds its ground and puts out new shoots when old branches fall, and makes its small red berries in autumn for the birds, and stands through every storm that comes. Some storms it bends in. Some it loses branches to. But it stands. It will be standing long after everything that is currently happening in the world has become the distant past. There is comfort in that. In the knowledge that something is still there. That something old and rooted and patient is still occupying its particular ground. You can be like that tonight. Rooted. Patient. Still occupying your particular ground. Nothing needs to be resolved. Nothing needs to be figured out. Just this. The tree in its place. You in your place. The night doing its work. The 4 great festivals are still marked. At the spring equinox, at Beltane, at midsummer, at Lugnasad, at the autumn equinox, at Samhain, at midwinter, at Imbolc, the Celtic calendar's turning points, the cross-quarter days between the astronomical markers, people still gather. In Ireland, in Scotland, in Wales, in Brittany, in communities of the Celtic diaspora around the world. They gather around fires. They speak old names. They make offerings to the old presences, the wells, the trees, the sacred hills. Or they simply acknowledge the turning of the year, the movement from season to season, the way the light changes and the animals change and the land changes in its dependable, ancient rhythm. Not everyone who gathers is religious about it. Many are simply glad to mark the turning. To have a ceremony at the edges of the year. To say, we notice this. The year is moving. We are part of it. That acknowledgement, that simple, gentle awareness that you are inside a process much larger and older than yourself, and that the process is not indifferent to your presence, is, perhaps, what the Druidic tradition offered its practitioners. Not control over the cosmos. Not the ability to bend the universe to human will. Just awareness. Just the practice of paying attention to where you are in the great turning, and acknowledging it, and aligning yourself with it rather than against it. Nemeton. The sacred clearing. The open space under the sky. You can make one anywhere. Anytime. Even tonight, in the stillness of your room, with the familiar darkness pressing gently on your closed eyelids. A small cleared space. Where you are present. Where the sky is overhead. Where you are simply here, exactly as things are, in this moment. The fire in the clearing is very low. It has become just glow now. Not flame, glow. the deep orange and red of coals that are still warm, still alive, but no longer burning in any dramatic sense. Just holding their heat. Just being warm in the dark. The stars have moved a little since you first looked up. They always do. The whole dome of the sky turning slowly, slowly, the way it has been turning for the entire time human beings have been alive to watch it. The Druids watched it turning. You are watching it turning. The same stars. The holly and the oak. In the old tradition, the oak king and the holly king are two aspects of the turning year, one ruling the light half, one ruling the dark. They battle at the solstices, each yielding to the other in turn. Neither permanently wins. Neither permanently loses. They are the same energy in different seasons, the same turning in different phases. This is not a mythology of opposition resolved. It is a mythology of opposition sustained. The balance between light and dark, between growth and rest, between summer and winter is not a problem to be solved. It is the nature of things. It is the structure of the year. And the year is right, as it is. The dark half of the year is right. The rest is right. The drawing inward is right. The long nights are right. This night is right. You are very heavy now. In the best possible way. Your body is heavy with the comfortable weight of deep rest. Your limbs are settled where they are and have no interest in moving. Your eyes, if they have opened at all during any of this, are closed now or closing. The forest is still around you in your imagination, or perhaps it has dissolved into something less specific, just the feeling of being surrounded by something old and quiet and living. Just the sense of air and darkness and the distant, steady presence of things that have been here much longer than you and will be here much longer than you and are, in their patient way, entirely fine with that. The oak tree at the edge of the clearing. Still there. The stream. Still moving. The fire. Just glow now. Just warmth. Just the color of embers in the dark. The Druids had a blessing that various scholars have tried to reconstruct from scattered sources, and while we cannot know the original words exactly, the sentiment has survived in many forms. A blessing for the liminal moment. For the threshold between waking and sleeping. For the edge of the night. May the land hold you. May the water carry what you release. May the fire keep its light in you through the darkness. May you remember, when you wake, that you are part of something very old and very large and entirely alive. Sleep now. The sacred grove is quiet. The old you is standing. The bronze calendar is tracking its moons. The stream is moving over its ancient stones, finding its way to the river, finding its way to the sea. The Morrigan's crow is sleeping in a high branch somewhere, its black feathers folded, its clever eye closed. The Dagda's cauldron is full. The Liafail is silent on its hill, waiting for the right foot. The fire at Kildare is burning, as it has been burning, as it will keep burning. And you are almost there. Across the threshold. Into the other world of sleep. Which is not far away. Which is always this close. Just on the other side of this breath. And the next.